September 5th, 2021. A prisoner requests to transfer to cell number 5. The request was approved without raising any suspicions. A few hours later, at 1:30 past midnight, all of the prisoners in cell number 5 escaped. This is the story of the biggest prison break in Israel, a Shawshank Redemption-style escape that turned 6 prisoners into heroes overnight. We will discuss the prison in question, the prisoners who escaped, how they did it, and what happened to them. We will hear the story from the mastermind of the operation and how they exploited the prison security flaws. This is the story of the Gilboa Prison Break. Gilboa Prison is located in northern Israel, right next to the border with the West Bank, near a town called Bet Shean. It's in a highly sensitive area, close to both Palestinian territories and Jordan. It's in the same prison area as Shita Prison. There are 2 separate prisons, but they are physically adjacent and they share the same overall compound. It was built in 2004 during the Second Intifada to accommodate a growing number of Palestinian prisoners. The Second Intifada was a Palestinian uprising against Israel that lasted from 2000 to around 2005. Gilboa Prison is considered one of the Israel's most modern and secure prisons, often referred to as the safe due to its perceived impenetrability. Let's take a look at some of its security features. Each cell is constructed with 66 tons of reinforced concrete, nearly 3 times heavier than a standard cell. Cell doors are electronically controlled and linked to a central computer system, allowing for immense controls in the cells. It's equipped with 72 surveillance cameras, and the prison is surrounded by high walls topped with heavy barbed wire, making it very difficult to escape. Gilboa Prison has 5 separate sections, connected by a pipe-shaped corridor, from which nothing can be seen at either end. In each section, there are 15 cells arranged in an H shape, and in the center, prisoners are allowed to walk twice a day for 2 hours at a time. In each cell, there are 8 beds. Prisoners have the bare minimum in terms of facilities: a shower, a toilet, a fan, a hot plate, and a kettle. On September 6, 2021, 6 Palestinian prisoners executed a meticulously planned escape from Israel's high-security Gilboa Prison. The 6 prisoners were originally from Jenin. They were as follows: Zakaria Zubaydi, the most senior member of the group and a former leader of Fatah group; Mahmoud Abdullah Arda, who is considered the mastermind of the escape, and his brother Muhammad Qasim; Yaqub Mahmoud Qadri, Iham Naif Kamamji, and finally Munadil Yaqub Nafiya. 5 of the 6 inmates were members of Islamic Jihad group. Now let's explore the timeline of the escape. The escape started much before September 6. The escape plan was initiated on December 14, 2020 by Mahmoud Abdullah. He began digging a tunnel from the bathroom of cell number 5 in the second branch of Gilboa Prison. Over the course of 20 days, he created a tunnel entrance. The entrance was covered by a removable floorboard. From that day on, till a few days before the escape, Mahmoud Abdullah and his cellmates continued digging a 22-meter tunnel, going from the cell to right outside the prison walls. The digging process took more than 250 days. On September 5, 2021, a day before the escape, Zakaria Zubaydi requested a transfer to cell number 5, joining the other 5 prisoners. At 1 a.m. on September 6, the 6 prisoners removed the floorboard in the bathroom of their cell, revealing the tunnel entrance. They entered the tunnel and began their escape. By 1:30 in the morning, the prisoners emerged from the tunnel outside the prison walls. It took them 30 minutes to navigate a 22-meter tunnel, showing how difficult the navigation was. The tunnel exit was located directly beneath a watchtower, which was unmanned. We will discuss the security flaws later on. For now, let's continue the timeline. You're watching 1945. We make short, documentary-style videos on real historical events. Please subscribe if you're interested. As the prisoners emerged, guard dogs in the prison yard start barking, triggering a warning system that directed security cameras towards the noise. Immediately after the escape, prisoners changed into civilian clothes and left their prison uniforms near the tunnel exit. The first report regarding a suspected escape reached the police only after 49 minutes. At 1:49 a.m., a citizen driving on Route 71 called the police and reported that he saw figures running in the fields. Within minutes, a patrol car arrived at the scene and began scanning. 2 hours and 14 minutes after the escape, the deputy commander of the Bet Shean police station informed the prison control center about the reports of suspicious figures in the vicinity. Prison staff conducted a head count at 3:29 in the morning and discovered that 3 inmates were missing. 31 minutes later, at 4 a.m., the number of missing inmates was updated to 6. After escaping, the 6 men walked about 7 kilometers to the Israeli Arab town of Noura, where they asked a few local residents to drive them to Jenin and were refused. Then, they spent less than an hour in a local mosque, where they showered and changed clothes before leaving town. After hearing that a significant number of security forces were deployed, they decided to split into 3 pairs and move towards northern Israel. We'll come back to what happened to them next. Now, let's explore how they pulled off such an escape. The escape began by Mahmoud Abdullah, starting to dig a tunnel from the bathroom of cell number 5, using a piece of iron taken from a small cupboard in the cell. In 20 days, he created the tunnel entrance. The excavation continued over several months, with at least 11 prisoners contributing to the effort. They dig approximately a 22-meter-long tunnel, disposing of the excavated dirt in the prison sewer system, garbage cans and hollow shafts. They utilized rudimentary items available within the prison to dig the tunnel. These included rusty spoons, plates and pen handles, which they sharpened on the edges. Engineers believe they may have weakened the concrete slab beneath their cell by repeatedly applying acid liquids, possibly even collagenase. The successful escape was facilitated by multiple security failures and systematic issues within Gilboa Prison. Let's explore some of them. The first and probably the biggest flaw was that the blueprint of the prison was available online. This provided detailed information about the structure of the prison, which helped the prisoners take advantage of another security flaw. During construction, builders left an empty space beneath parts of the prison. The escapees discovered it and used it as a shortcut to start their tunnel, avoiding the hardest part of digging through solid concrete. But even with these 2 major flaws, the escape would never have happened without a series of human errors. The tunnel exit was located directly beneath a watchtower that was unmanned, as previously mentioned. This was due to staffing shortages. Also, the security dogs started barking when the prisoners came out of the tunnel. But the guard responsible for monitoring security cameras was reportedly watching television instead of the live prison footage. Another guard in a nearby watchtower was asleep during the escape, failing to notice any suspicious activities. Another security flaw was during the digging phases. A guard responsible for maintaining the sewer system noticed blockage caused by dirt, likely coming from the digging operation, but failed to report the blockage to the prison authorities. The prison staff did not realize the inmates were missing until several hours after the escape. Despite earlier reports from civilians about the suspicious activities near the prison. This slow response cost them precious time. The first hours after a prison break are critical. Every minute that passes gives the escapees a bigger head start and expands the search area. As we mentioned, Gilboa Prison and Shita Prison are adjacent to each other. A year and a half ago, a special wing was built in Shita, which was specially designed for the Palestinian prisoners. The goal was to take dangerous prisoners from Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and other major groups and put them in a high-security incarceration. Many prisoners, among them Zakaria Zubaydim, were transferred to this wing. However, when the new prison warden took office, she decided to break up the wing and send them back to the prisons they had come from. Even though Gilboa is very secure, it's nowhere as safe as the special wing. At Gilboa Prison, standard procedure required rotating prisoners to different cells every 6 months, while ensuring that dangerous inmates were not housed together. Zubaydim, who was a member of Fatah group, made the request himself to be placed in the same cell as 5 members of Islamic Jihad. He eventually escaped. For some reason, the request did not raise any red flags and was granted against the protocol. Despite the failed attempt to break in 2014, significant changes to prison security protocols were not implemented. The interesting thing is that the attempt made in 2014 was using the same method as the 2021 break, by digging a tunnel from the cell's bathroom. This shows the main reason for the break was not the available blueprint or the flaw in the structure of the prison. It was simply a series of human errors that the escapees took full advantage of. Following the escape of 6 Palestinian prisoners from Gilboa Prison, Israeli authorities launched an extensive manhunt to recapture them. The operation involved multiple security agencies and employed various tactics to locate and apprehend the fugitives. The Israeli Defense Forces deployed 2 battalions, 2 reconnaissance teams, and a number of special forces squads and aerial surveillance teams to assist in the search effort. Security officers in the localities near Gilboa Prison were alerted to the escape, and about 200 roadblocks were set up in the roads just hours before the Rosh Hashanah holiday. Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year, one of the holiest days in Judaism. Checkpoints were put up in the vicinity of the prison and throughout the country, including near the border with the Gaza Strip, due to concerns that the prisoners might try to escape there. Police entered the nearby Israeli Arab localities of Tamra and Noura, searched mosques, and arrested 3 Noura residents over suspicions that they have had assisted the escape. Drones, helicopters, and dogs were used alongside Israeli troops in the manhunt. Mahmoud Abdullah and Yaqub Mahmoud were the first group that got recaptured. Only 4 days after the escape, on September 10th, the 2 were spotted by local residents rummaging through trash bins for food. They had approached a woman to ask for food, raising suspicions. The residents noticed the police, leading to their arrest after a chase involving a helicopter. 1 day later, on September 11th, 2 more prisoners were recaptured. This time, Zakaria Zubaydi and Muhammad Qasim, a local Israeli Arab man, encountered the 2 while riding a dune buggy. They asked him for a ride, but he refused and alerted the authorities. Military trackers tracked their footprints to a truck stop parking lot, where they were found. Arda was sleeping under a semi-truck, and Zubaydi was nearby. He tried to escape, but was quickly overpowered. The last 2 prisoners managed to stay on the run longer. They evaded capture for 13 days and made it to the city of Jenin, traveling further than any of the others. Since Jenin is a Palestinian city, recapturing Iham Naif and Munadil Yaqub was more difficult. Israeli forces surrounded a building in Jenin, where the 2 were hiding. To distract Palestinian militant factions, a larger force of troops was deployed elsewhere in the city to draw attention away from the location of the raid. There were reported exchanges of gunfire during the operation. After a brief standoff, they surrendered without resistance. 2 accomplices from Jenin who had helped to hide them were also arrested, marking the end of the manhunt. Following their recapture, the 6 prisoners were charged with escaping from prison, a criminal offense under Israeli law. On May 22, 2022, an Israeli court sentenced each of them to an additional 5 years in prison. 5 other individuals accused of assisting in the escape received 4 year sentences. The Israeli prison service reacted to the escape by imposing new restrictions on Palestinian security prisoners and moving them between facilities. As a result, riots among Palestinian prisoners broke out in a few prisons, and several prisons in Gilboa Prison and Roman Prison were set on fire in southern Israel. The fires in 7 cells in Gilboa were started by Palestinian Islamic Jihad or PIJ members, who refused to be moved between sections. 5 of the escapees were members of PIJ. In response to the decision to move Palestinian security prisoners between prisons, Palestinian factions declared a day of rage. Demonstrations and clashes between Palestinian and Israeli troops took place throughout the West Bank, during which Palestinian rioters fired at Israeli troops manning the Jalama checkpoint. The ISP's intelligence unit failed to detect the tunnel excavation over 9 months, despite indicators like sand blockage in the sewage pipes. During the subsequent manhunt, Israeli forces employed advanced tactics, but were unable to locate the fugitives on their own. All 6 escapees were ultimately discovered through surveillance reports. Several ISP officials were suspended or investigated for their roles in the security lapses. Although all 6 fugitives were recaptured, they are now considered heroes on the Palestinian streets, not just among Islamic Jihad and Hamas supporters. In January 2025, nearly 4 years after the escape, Zakaria Zubaydi and Muhammad Qasim were unexpectedly released. Their names appeared on the list of Palestinian prisoners freed as a part of ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. The other 4 escapees remained in prison under strict conditions. And so, the legend of the Gilboa escapees took one final twist, from tunnel diggers to free national heroes to prisoners once more, and for 2 of them to freedom again. This was an unbelievable story of 6 men exploiting a chain of human errors and flaws, escaping one of the Israel's most secure prisons, something that no one thought possible, a breakout that feels more like a movie than real life. Thanks for watching. A like on the video is appreciated.